It's time to continue our journey in the lands where white wines reign supreme. Now that's not taking anything against the unique reds that come from this area too, but when we talk about the rich history of Friuli-Venezia Giulia and specifically the amphitheater that is Collio. Bring your empty bags, friends, because you are going to want to come home with a lot of these wines when we are done visiting our good friends at Alessio Komjanc. It's another edition of Johnny Say Something, so let's hit the road. All right, today we are visiting the Komjanc, and I remember from an interview a beautiful thing that he said: to visit their winery, you need to get lost. Now, we are in the northeast of Italy, close to the border with Slovenia, in this beautiful natural amphitheater that has the mountains to the north and also coming down around, but also the sea to the south. Now, Alessio started this winery in the 70s after he left his family's farm to go and focus specifically on wine. Now, this wasn't just growing the vines, but this was the all-encompassing process of growing the wines, processing the wines, bottling the wines, and selling the wines. That is something that was very, very different at that period of time and not so common. Now, the border between what is now Slovenia and Italy was created in 1947. Before that, this entire area was really known as one. Now, 1/3 of this wine growing area belongs to Italy, while 2/3 of this wine growing area actually belong to Slovenia. Now, there is this divide, in some sense a political divide, but there is not a natural divide nor a cultural divide. This is an area that very much runs the same line of wine production and respect for the land and respect for the final product that gets put into these bottles. Now, this area has been known for incredible wines since the pre-Roman age. Incredible grapes and incredible wines from the San Floriano del Collio area. Now, this is one of the 7 communes, townships, that can be known as a part of Collio. There are a total of 330 hectares of vineyards, and the highest point is 276 meters above sea level. Now, what's incredible about this area, and one of the things I love so much about Italy, is you can be in one position, see the snow on the mountains, and see the seaside at the same time. That is something that is beyond unique and actually gives an incredible amount of impact to the wines themselves. Now, we gave a brief history, but let's fast forward to the present. And since the year 2000, all 4 of the sons of Alessio have entered into the winemaking business, basically each one taking their own part. This creates a very unique, familiar situation, and one that I know from a tourist point of view that we love. In 2005 and 2006, they decided to really renovate and kind of put in an overhaul of not only their vineyards, but also the cellar and the production as well, creating a very uniform ecosystem where everything works just as they want it. And that is very important for them because they've realized that in the end, they're the first consumers of their wine themselves. And so if it's not good enough for them, it's not going to be good enough for everybody who comes and visits. That's a unique mentality and a mentality that I think should definitely be appreciated. The Komjanc family is very much rooted in their values. Their values dictate what they do every step of the way. They understand that them living in harmony with nature means doing more than just putting blood, sweat, and tears into their hard work. They need to be not just respectful, but they need to understand how to become even better stewards of the land that they have and putting that same energy into their wine. They know that, and they have 3 values: tradition, responsibility, and culture. These 3 things are their guiding compasses, and you can definitely tell that there is something, I want to say, a little bit old school about these wines, but at the same time, there's 2 other avenues of the culture and the area that they live in, and then the responsibility that they have to the consumer as well. One of the first values that the Komjanc family focuses on is tradition. Now, tradition can be really important because it allows you to reflect on your past and see what you can learn from it, but also continue on in a certain way with a certain respect. I think we can all say in the past things were a little bit easier maybe and a little bit more simple. And I think that is a concept that they put into their winemaking techniques, and also the work that they do in the vineyard, keeping things clean, keeping things natural. And that is very, very important. Once again, Alessio, who founded this, his great-grandparents were already producing wine at the end of the 19th century. And now the pride that he must feel to know that his 4 sons are all involved in the same business really has brought together the values and the things that they've taught, he's taught them, and then allowing them to take that and make that into something of their own. That, to me, is what a family business is all about, and you can definitely taste that personality in these wines. The responsibility that they have to the earth for them is equal to the responsibility that they have for their consumers. It's this mixture and this understanding that we work with the land that we have. We are a part of it. And to be our best, we need to give our best. And that goes, again, both ways, into the earth and into the consumers, and for the consumers as well. And that's just, again, a really great focus for their philosophy. And if you, again, have the chance to visit their website, you will see that this is a cornerstone for this family, and one that isn't going to change anytime soon. Last but not least, a focus of the family is culture. Now, when we talk about culture, I think sometimes that can mean so many different things. But here, it is the culture that they know that they have and that they've created and that they've become a part of. They welcome tourists with open arms, and that, again, is part of the culture of this region. Welcoming people, opening your home, opening your business, allowing them to taste and get a real understanding of what everything this land really has to offer. Now, I think we've all fallen into a world where wine hospitality and enoturism is becoming a staple for everybody, and that is a great thing. But still, when you see the faces of this family, when they are greeting people, when they're speaking with people, they are genuinely happy and excited to be able to share a small area of land, an area of land that, yes, has gotten some, has become recognized internationally for the products that they have, but they still treat it as this undiscovered gem, and with the enthusiasm of you finding something for yourself. That is unique, and that is one of the things that we love the most here at Cantina Social. So as we said, with this renovation of the cellar that they've done, hospitality has become a huge focus for them, and for very good reason, because they're in such a beautiful area of land. Not only do they have incredible vineyards that you can go and visit and get a better understanding of these wines, but they also have a very, very nice olive grove, and they produce their own olive oil, which, again, I think next to wine has become Italy's greatest trademark. Fantastic olive oil that, again, we're getting to even specialized olive oils that we're starting to understand the flavors and the tastes and the nuances even more. I can only imagine in such a fertile region that enjoys this silt from the land and some sandy soil, how beautiful and fragrant that those olives and the olive oils might be. Now, they fully invite you, and we invite you as well, to go and visit them any chance you have. Obviously, times aren't exactly ripe for that, but per tutti gli italiani che sono di là, dovete andare a scoprire, perché senza persone come questi, diciamo, non andiamo da nessuna parte. All right, before we get into actually tasting these wines, let's talk a little bit more about kind of the area of Collio and what goes into creating this really, really unique area. So you have the Julian Alps, which are a little bit to the north, basically, of where we are. And again, the Komjanc winery is really, really close to the Slovenian border. Now, you have these hills and you have the Alps to the north, and then they kind of swing around underneath the property as well. There's also this kind of two rivers. They don't come together, but two rivers that kind of create a triangle as well, and that is definitely going to affect some of the climate. Below the rivers, we get to the Adriatic Sea. Again, a large climatic influence there, making sure that there's always kind of tempered winds and a cool breeze that can come through. So we're in an area where it kind of seems like there's no drastic temperature or weather movements going on. It seems quite protected, which is a great thing for vines and for wine. But at the same time, there are some really, really unique things happening underneath and in the soil that also attribute to these wines being the way that they are. We have these layers of almost a silty clay and sand. We all know, but we don't know why fully, sandy soils really go into creating a beautiful, beautiful finesse in wines, in elegance, if we can say. And I would definitely attribute that word and those characteristics to these wines. But another aspect of wine growing, and specifically white wines, is a temperature change. So when we've talked about growing vines and vineyards up near the mountains, we've talked about how the altitude helps in the temperature change and making sure that kind of a lot of those properties inside of the grape during maturation are conserved and remain, so that we get all of those incredible floral and explosive notes. Now, we're not necessarily too high up. We're talking about a little over 250 meters above sea level. But because the area is situated the way that it is, we do have a large difference in temperature change between day and night. That is a fundamental factor when we talk about having white wines that are so expressive, and something that can really not be underestimated when it comes to tasting. It's one of the first things that we notice. When it pours into the glass, you really just sense this explosion. And that's why white wines have become really so important and so renowned from this area. I've cheated a little bit. I already put a little in my glass, but we're gonna do a full tasting now. We're gonna go through the Pinot Grigio, the Sauvignon, and the Pinot Bianco. Now, if you notice, this Pinot Bianco right here also has a beautiful little stamp, which we can definitely say is a stamp of approval from our good friends at Merano Wine Festival. This wine right here, friends, was a Platinum Award winning wine. That is incredible. That is a Platinum Award for a wine that has a vintage that is currently on the market. Now, that is a very limited number of people who receive that award, and it is the highest award that you can receive from the Merano Wine Festival. I have yet to taste this wine. To say I have high expectations would be very, very truthful, but I know from the fact that I've been able to taste these other wines that that wine specifically is going to be mind-blowing. So I'm really, really happy that I get to share this with you guys, and I hope you guys enjoy it too. But in the meantime, if you want, make sure you check out their website. Just Google really fast Alessio Komjanc wine, and you will find their website. And they are also opening up in e-commerce. Now, that e-commerce is going to be fundamental in getting these wines directly to you. So make sure you guys go check that out. You're not doing us any favors, you're doing yourself a favor and your seller. So, hey, that's what we're all here for, to stock up that cellar a little bit. So let's get going with this tasting. Again, thanks to our good friend Corvin, we don't have to open up every bottle, and I can sit and just enjoy a glass right now. So we are working with a 2018 Pinot Grigio, and I have to say that recently, obviously with some of the other work that we've done, Pinot Grigio has become a wine that I have really, really I've become to appreciate again. It's changed my perception, a lot of the producers that I've tasted, and them, Komjanc being first and foremost on that list. We have a beautiful, beautiful straw yellow color, a little bit of a gold reflection, but not too much. And right from the nose, you get exactly what you would expect. You're getting that beautiful apple, you're getting that beautiful jasmine flower. It's explosive, but I don't want to say it's restrained. It's still tight. It's taut. The acidity in it, you can tell that this wine is going to be fresh. Some Pinot Grigios can get to a point where they are full body, so it's going to be interesting to see where this one falls in. These vines also have a varying amount of age. They do not, there's no single age for them. So we're talking about different ages for the vineyards, which we know can go in and have a factor on its complexity. But when it comes to winemaking, Komjanc follows a very, very simple and straightforward approach. Steel tanks. That's it, period. Nothing else. And at least when we're talking about these white wines. And that is something, again, that we love here at Cantina Social. It allows for the authenticity of the fruit really to come out and to be really at the forefront. And not to say that there's anything wrong with wood. We love wood too, and wine that goes through wood, even white wines as well. But there's something really authentic. And if you're trying to learn about a wine and understand a little bit more about the grape itself, I think tasting wines that only go through steel tanks is a great way to do it. As I said before, you get these beautiful fruit notes of apple, of pear. You do get a little vegetal note of maybe something a little hay. And you're still getting a little bit of spice on the nose as well, but just a touch. But again, it's still harmonious already on the nose, and you know that we're gonna find that in the glass as well. Yep. Very, very bright, but yet tapered acidity that really just kind of caresses your entire palate. There's nothing intrusive about it. I could drink a glass of this wine by itself, no problem. But having this with food would also be really, really nice. It creates that other side of harmony. You get a little bit of something a little bit fatty in there. This with risotto, this with any type of white meat. Obviously, you could do seafood with this as well, and you are definitely in the clear. But this is just, again, this is I don't want to oversimplify it. This is simply a fantastic wine. There is nothing. I don't want to say there's nothing crazy going on, because there's a lot going on in the glass, but you don't feel like anything is out of pocket. Everything that's happening is very, very natural, and I think that even lends itself to even a more harmonious wine, both on the nose and on the palate. Fantastic. Extremely, extremely nice. And still, guys, 13.5% alcohol. So it's at a nice spot. It's not too high, but it's also not too low. And that, again, when some of the things that we learned in the W set, talking about the overall harmony of a wine, acidity, sugar, alcohol, and tannins. Here, we're not really playing with tannins too much, maybe just a little bit that we could get after the press, but because these grapes are pressed and they don't have any contact with the skin, it's probably unlikely that we're gonna get any tannins. So here we're talking about sugar, alcohol, and acidity. Beautiful, beautiful balance. A beautiful wine that it's one of those that you just kind of never want to finish. But we have to. We are going to go on to the second wine, which is a Sauvignon, still 2018. And once again, if you guys haven't gotten the memo about how amazing Korovin is, I don't know where you've been for the past, I don't know, year and a half or so. Without this tool, so many of our tastings really wouldn't be possible. And it's something that I find now indispensable. I couldn't not live without it. I couldn't live without it. I couldn't not live without. I couldn't live with it. Yeah. All right. All right, guys, so if you haven't caught on already, Korovin, I don't know where you've been for the last year and a half as we've been talking about it so very often. And it's because we really, really love it. And it's because we really, really use it. I use this, I'm not gonna say daily, but multiple times a week. whether it's sharing wines with friends and holding on to something and wanting them to taste it, or simply being able to do a tasting like this. Without an amazing invention like this by the great Greg Lambrick, we would not be able to do this. So thank you once again to Corvin, and back to our regular show. Here we have gotten into Sauvignon, and the first thing that we can notice is a difference in color. This is going to have a little bit more of a greenish reflection. It is not going to be as yellow. Here we're definitely rolling a lot more on the green. What a nose. Here, Sauvignon all the way, exotic fruit. This is what you're getting. This is what you're looking for, but you don't want it to be, at least for me personally, I never want it to be overpowering. I don't like heavy things on my palate, whether it's the palate or on the nose. I like things when they are harmonious, when they're mixed. I don't want to say mixed, but when they come together with other notes and give you something unique. But still, you can't not say tropical fruit. You can't not say exotic fruit when you talk about Sauvignon. And here, that's exactly what you're getting. Now, the beauty of this area also is it has quite mild summers. Now, summer is definitely warm, but it is not too hot. And that not too hot is what's going to allow this Sauvignon to maintain a lot of that acidity and maintain some of those notes without getting overly mature. 14% alcohol. Again, that's another factor when we start talking about the harmony in the glass and on the palate. Wow. That, my friends, is a treat. That is the way a Sauvignon is supposed to taste, especially from the northeast of Italy. I've been a little bit skeptical of times, and I think that's just because of my own personal wine journey. I've tasted a lot of wines, a lot of New World wines that kind of turned me off because I found that they were kind of extreme representations of wine, pushing a wine to a limit to try and get the most of one single characteristic. And one of the reasons why I love, and I mean absolutely love, wines from Komjanc is that there is no extreme, there is only harmony. I know I've probably said the word harmony 1,000 times. I think we could probably play a nice drinking game with this video and that word. But I think that's the word to use when you talk about white wines that are really, really balanced. All right, I said before that you get those incredible tropical fruit notes. Now, as this wine has just kind of sat in the glass for a second, we're getting into a little bit of that vanilla, that sambuca, that touch of balsamic. Obviously, this is not an aged wine. This is a 2018, so we're not going to get too much into those evolved notes, but I still find it fascinating how a grape itself can have notes that typically are received or taken from the use of wood. This wine right here, once again, guys, only steel tanks, and that is what is so beautiful. This is the grape in its purest form. Again, when we talk about Sauvignon Blanc, one of the things I love it most for, and what I've learned the most from, is food pairings. I am a spicy food guy, okay? And this wine right here, spicy Asian cuisine, it is a match made in heaven. It has the alcohol and it has the acidity and the body to really be able to muster up a nice, let's say a nice fight against some of those spices that you might find on your palate, depending on whether it's Thai, Vietnamese, or any other type of cuisine that you might be eating. This is a food-friendly wine, to say the least. And again, I'm just blown away by the authenticity and the sincerity of this wine. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. And again, even in the first wine, there's just this touch of minerality. It's not it's not the first thing that you notice, but there is this saline quality that kind of just mixes really well with the acidity. It blends in perfectly, and the only sensation that you have at the end is this beautiful, beautiful salivation, which makes you more thirsty and makes you a little bit hungry too. On to the last wine, the big boy. The big boy, and I say that only because we know that this wine is important from what I said before, the fact that it won a platinum award from Merano Wine Festival. That is no small feat, and I've underlined it again because I find it to be pretty extraordinary. We've met a few of the producers, we know a few producers who have won the platinum award, and it is a huge honor, and it only happens to huge wines. So once again, this bottle hasn't been touched by a Coravin, it hasn't been touched by anybody. I'm pretty excited to try it, so let's see what happens. Now, some of us are maybe thinking, okay, there's Pinot Nero, there's Pinot Grigio, and there's Pinot Bianco. So what happened? That's a great question, and a question that I probably can't give a sufficient answer to, but really these are all just shades of Pinot. So I'll say the first Pinot, and maybe this isn't even true, but I would maybe presume the first Pinot was the Pinot Nero, Pinot Noir, the red grape that we can find. At some point as it was growing, they began to notice that all of the grapes weren't becoming red, that some of them were staying white, and some of them were in between. And then what they were able to do was identify those vines and those vineyards and be able to kind of reproduce and focus on that quality. That's where we get Pinot Grigio. Pinot Grigio, if you let the skin stay in contact with the wine after you've pressed it, it gets this blush color. It's not a rosé, it's not a red, it's somewhere in between. Now this didn't happen with this wine, and that's why we have this color. Pinot Bianco is 100% Bianco, it's white. There is no red tint to these grapes, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have some of the same characteristics. So, let's see what happens. I said it every time, and I will say it again. There are few sounds that make me as happy as that of the Coravin. So, in terms of color, I know I'm not in the best place for it. Again, I still say we're here a little bit more greenish hints to it. This gets a little bit more flashes of gold, and I think that maybe has to do with just the grape itself, and even though it doesn't come in contact with the skin, the first juices kind of pass through it, so in some way it touches it. Wow. Absolutely stunning. Beautiful golden apples. You're getting white peach, and white peach has become one of my favorite fruits. I grew up eating peaches in general, but they were the beautiful, voluptuous yellow peaches that my grandmother grew. White peaches for me are just a little bit more nuanced. They're a little bit more delicate, and that's what this wine is already starting to demonstrate. There's going to be an elegance to this wine that I think is going to be pretty extraordinary. Just the elegance, the silkiness of this wine is incredible. You're getting a little bit of, you get that little touch of a hazelnut, both on the palate and on the nose. And it's just that and it gives you that little touch of bitterness that really is balanced by that sweetness and that subtle nuance of a white peach, and the golden apples once again just coming out, and just kind of, again, it's one of those apples that's not too acidic, and in this wine, again, nothing drastic about it. There's no extreme in this. This is all perfectly balanced. Things are flowing in and out, let's say. Wow. Just a beautiful, beautiful, just a beautiful wine. And here, once again, food-wise, there's a lot that you can do with this wine. A lot that you can do. And you can, really, I've given you some ideas about what you can do through this entire lineup, but the truth of it is, guys, have fun. Taste the wine first. One of the things that I like to do the most is I'll taste the wine before I start cooking. So I'll have an idea maybe of the protein that I'm going to use, something like that, and then from that moment, I'll taste the wine and then kind of go ahead and play with whether it's the herbs or the spices that I'm going to use. I would highly suggest you doing that with your wines as well. It gives you freedom to experiment a little bit, but you do it with an awareness of the wine that you're going to be tasting. Absolutely phenomenal. This is by far one of the best Pinot Biancos that I've ever tasted, and it is no surprise that this wine right here won a platinum award. Hats off to the entire Komjanc family. We thank them for being a part of Il Resto in Cantina from the very beginning, and the support that they gave us and that we hopefully were able to transmit back to them. These wines for me are a representation of a territory and also a mentality of people who value family, who value working hard, and who value doing the right thing. And that may sound very, very cliche, but I think when you look out for the best interest of the land that you have and the people who are going to enjoy your wines, you personally will receive great satisfaction. And I hope that is one of the things that we've been able to give back to them. Again, I don't think it gets much better than these wines when we talk about white wines from the northeast of Italy. They have nothing to envy from any of the other areas, whether it is Italian or international, when it comes to producing extraordinary white wines. I'm gonna sit back, I'm gonna enjoy this, I'm gonna think about how I wanna pair these wines, because I cannot stress this enough. These are food-friendly wines and wines that deserve to be paired with food. So until next time, you know who it is and you know what it is. It's your boy Johnny Vino with Johnny Say Something. Next episode, we are going to be getting out of the world of white wine and we're going to be getting back into some reds just for a little bit. But don't worry, summer is here and we know what we need to be focusing on. Staying fresh, staying cool, and enjoying ourselves. So this was one of the first little previews of what we got coming up soon. Make sure you guys stay tuned because Cantina Social is always bringing the heat. Cheers.
You sit down.